Do this before we actually start the video. This is how I cook my potatoes for scalloped potatoes, mashed potatoes, potato salad, anything where I'm not using home canned potatoes. I boil them whole, wash them, boil them whole. Check them for doneness with a fork, and then I let them cool enough to peel. That, to me, makes a better textured potato for baking. With scalloped potatoes, I won't let them get totally done. I'll want a little resistance to the fork when I test them. For mashed potatoes, I would cook them totally done. But for me, the potatoes taste better. They maintain their texture better. And they keep some of the starch. And when you're making a dish with potatoes, like scalloped potatoes, the starch is a good thing. So we'll be back and I'll show you the rest of this. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us again tonight. Well, you saw me boiling potatoes. I'm going to make scalloped potatoes. And I realized when I said scalloped potatoes that this might not be what you call scalloped potatoes, because it's potatoes in a cream sauce, which is scalloped potatoes, but I add a little cheese just because we like a little cheese in ours. So you may want to call it potatoes au gratin. I call it scalloped potatoes. You saw me boiling the potatoes whole, and I do that a lot. And I'll tell you a story about how I started doing that. When my oldest grandson was little, he spent a lot of time here, and he wanted to help me cook. Well, he was not very good with a knife, and so in order to allow him to help me cook, I would boil the potatoes whole and then cool them, and then let him peel them just with a case knife, a kitchen knife, one that wasn't sharp. And I started noticing that the potatoes had, to me, a better, heartier flavor. And you didn't lose quite as much of the peel, and you didn't lose the nutrients and the starches that are inside. So I just started boiling potatoes whole for potato dishes. Then I even often boil several of them, and then if we want to have fried potatoes, they make wonderful fried potatoes if they've been cooked ahead. So let's get started with my version of scalloped potatoes. So here we go. As I said, scalloped potatoes are potatoes cooked in a cream sauce. And I'm going to cut these, not super thick, but I don't want them too skinny. And I cooked 3 potatoes. They're kind of large. I may not actually use all 3, but don't worry, it won't be wasted. So I'm going to layer these around in the pan. And I could pretty much fill the pan full because there's a lot of space in between the potatoes, and the sauce will fill it up. And I have my oven preheating to 350. Which is one reason I didn't want the potatoes cooked just totally done. And this is my new little 2-quart Lodge Dutch oven. They call it a serving pan. It looks like a little Dutch oven to me. Okay, let's make the sauce. Okay, our ingredients for this are pretty simple. There aren't many. I have here a half stick of butter. That's a 1/4 cup. I have here a 1/4 cup of cornstarch. I have 2½ cups milk. I have about 2/3 cup cheese, and I say about because you can add more if you like. I have salt. I have red pepper flakes. And I have about 2 ounces of chopped onions. And we'll come back and put this all together. Alright, that's my oven coming up to heat. I have here an enameled pan. And the reason that I am using an enameled cast iron instead of regular cast iron, because this is one of those sauces that I want to keep a light color. So in goes my half stick of butter, and I'm going to wait for it to melt before I do anything else. And of course, you know, the reason that I didn't show you the chopped onions is because I forgot to chop them. But I've chopped them now, and 2 ounces is about a 1/4 cup. So make sure that's on your ingredient list. I'm going to come back when this butter has melted. Okay, it's melting. Well, it is. I'll tell you. What I'm giving you is a fairly small recipe, probably enough for 3 or 4 people, 1 serving. You can very easily double it. And you see this big pot. If I were going to double it, I would go ahead and make this sauce and put the potatoes down in it and bake it directly in this pot. So that would be a 1-dish meal for you, or a 1-dish side dish. So anyway, it's very easy to double. I'm going to, as this is heating up and the butter is melting, go ahead and dump my onions in there, because we want to give them a chance to start browning. I'm not putting a lot of spices. Actually, I'm not putting any spices in this. We like the flavor of the cheese and the potatoes and the cream all melded together. There are a couple of variations that I have seen people do. One is to add rosemary. And I like it with rosemary. We're just not doing that tonight. And another is to add mushrooms at this stage with the onions. You could make a full mirepoix if you wanted to. It's really not necessary for this particular dish. The mirepoix being 2 parts onions, 1 part carrots, 1 part celery, minced finely for this. Which, you know, is the basis for most soups that I make. So we're going to let that sizzle a bit and come right back. Okay, we've got a nice sizzle going. You can tell when that's happening because you can smell it. And I have here a 1/4 cup of cornstarch. And we're going to mix, mix, mix. And I'm going to put about a teaspoonful of salt. Salt it to taste. That was probably 3/4 of a teaspoon. You can always add more. And we're going to let this sizzle until we cook out some of that pasty flavor from the cornstarch. Now, this is a variation on a bechamel sauce that I make a lot. I generally go ahead and put my sauteed vegetables in early. Some people take them out, make the bechamel sauce, add them back. Either way works. I just like it this way. It's easier. But a bechamel sauce is basically say for this recipe, 1/4 cup fat, 1/4 cup flour or cornstarch. That adds up to 1/2 cup. And then 4 times that in liquid milk, cream. But I have just a little bit more than that. I have 2½ cups measured out because I'm going to add the cheese, and that gives you some thickening. Okay, now I'm going to pour my milk in slowly, and I'm doing this before we really get any color. I don't really want color in this. This is 1/2 and 1/2. And you stir, 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 because you don't want any of the cornstarch to lump. I've got my heat fairly high. When it starts to sizzle again, I'll drop my cheese in. It's just beginning to boil or to simmer. So I'm going to slowly drop the cheese in. This is about 2/3 cup grated white cheddar. Ooh, it's getting nice and thick. And it would be nice and creamy and rich without the cheese. We just like that little bit of cheese in it. You know, you can't go wrong with cheese. I'm going to turn it off. And spoon it over the potatoes. Let's see if you can see this. There we go. Not too much. If you watch my videos, you know I tend to overflow things. Okay, when I get all this in here, I'm going to put this in the oven. It's on 350. going to set the timer for 20 minutes. It's actually probably going to take 30, but I want to check it at 20. But your time for your recipe is going to be 350 for 30 minutes. And we will come back when we take it out of the oven. Well, here you go, scalloped potatoes. It actually took 35 minutes, so I'll make note of that in the recipe because I wanted to get a little browning on the top to make it pretty. So 35 minutes instead of 30 at 350. So let's serve this up. Give me just a minute. Ooh, it is piping hot. I think it's pretty. I think it tastes good. Let me get a bite and see. Sorry, got a mouthful. Cooking the potatoes ahead makes them really yummy, gives them a great texture. The cheese adds just a little something to it, but mostly this is potatoes and cream sauce, scalloped potatoes. Hope you try it. Thanks for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. Hope to see you again tomorrow.